Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Sorry, I was having problems at the last second there.
And out. So, did Mr. Grizzly have a stroke?
No, my camera went haywire, as you can see. And it's still kind of
yes.
flickering.
Yes, I see the flickering there. Yeah. A little couple of extra moments to breathe there, Kits and Cubs, for all of you. Good morning. And hello, kids. And welcome to Season 4 and episode number 588 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Still, always, and forever, 100% Canadian. Yeah. And thank you so much, Kids and Cups, for buying Canadian today by choosing to get your information from us. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And with me, with a gorgeous new background about which we will talk a little later, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. It looks like it's going to be, again, some grayish kind of day here at the Beaver Lodge. But Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today, sir?
Well, sir, let's just skate on by that one. I'm still kind of in a spot. I had every intention of doing an ASMR last night. I was supposed to do one on Friday. Friday went sideways. We got off the show. I took Lola for a walk. I came home and I was like, I have to lie down. And that was my Friday. And last night I had fallen asleep at 8 o'clock. I woke up, it was 9:45, so I just crawled into bed. So yeah, I'm just physically exhausted. I'll see if I can do some stuff today, but it's an uphill struggle. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine about that yesterday. A buddy of mine in Calgary called me up and I just said, I don't know what to do. I got an appointment with my doctor soon. I might have to increase my dosage. I might have to switch. I don't know what I'm going to do, but either way, this is not tenable anymore. It's just gotten to the point where, taking a shower is a Sisyphean task. Getting out of bed. Were it not for the show and Lola, why would I even get out of bed? That's where I am. And I'm not. It's the part of depression that is just, what's the point? Physical exhaustion.
Yeah.
I'm not hating myself, and I'm not wishing harm or intending to harm myself. Nothing like that.
Mm.
Just a feeling of emptiness and worthlessness, and what's the point?
Mm.
And that's you have no energy to do anything. Making a cup of coffee is a chore.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just where I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that. Well, I mean, I think we've all had the feeling every now and then. But yeah, everybody, first of all, thank you for all the love yesterday. I did see the comments. Had a couple of phone calls too. So thank you, friends, who did that. As you can tell, I am better
Mhm.
than yesterday. I'm better-ish. Yeah, I was weepy all day, like even bedtime.
Mm.
When time to go to bed because what you're experiencing, my beaver sweetie is feeling now and then. And
Right.
yesterday was one of those days, which would kind of be a natural consequence of what I did
Mm.
the night before. So yeah, the day didn't really get started in earnest until about like 5:30 p.m. yesterday. So
That's
I actually saw it happen. Um, but and people have different hard wirings, right?
Mhm.
You know, I came here and I did what I did, as tough as it was. Um, Other people need the time, and maybe I just wasn't. Even though I cracked, I maybe wasn't pushed enough, so that I needed to just shut the world out. I felt I needed
Mhm.
time with the damn fam yesterday.
I
Um,
understand that.
that it would be good, and it was good for me. Listen, I went to play curling after, and I thought, you're so tense, right? You're going to just. I played one of the best matches. I was after the third end, my team was looking at me. Gee, Rachel Holman, what the hell? It's like, what do you? It's like, and I just needed to again, right when I'm in the hack, and it's like it has to be only the rock.
Mhm.
It has to be only the rock, or else you
You're
are
not
going to put too
focusing on
hard or too
anything
wide
else.
or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So I was just able to get away from it, but actually use it to get away from it. And I didn't go for the match and say, I need to win this match because I need a win today.
Mhm.
Right? I just need to do something slow, methodical, repetitive, rhythmical, where I need to get into my body like this. And there's nothing but that. So that actually worked for me yesterday, and did a little bit of work and all that kind of stuff. But I'm also feeling better because I was in bed before 10 p.m. yesterday, and I actually slept a full 8 hours. I didn't even wake up to go pee. That might have been the
Wow.
first 8 hours I've gotten in a year and a half.
I've been up since 5 a.m.
So that helped.
Yeah, because normally you're at 4 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, take a nap, a couple hours
Yeah,
here, a couple hours there.
yeah. Of course, I think every last ounce of moisture had been cried out of my body by the time I fell asleep last night. So that might also have something to do with it. Um, Crying all day is a bit physically exhausting. Uh, but I am still emotional. Um, I'm not as easy to get weepy,
Mhm.
uh, but like there's this tingling going on right here as I'm talking about it. That if I just closed my eyes and actually like went into that feeling like this, there would be tears falling in about like 10 or 15 seconds, right? So, but not like yesterday where they would just happen and I couldn't hold them back. So I'm
Right.
doing better. um, and Alex did get to go and do some science yesterday. He did it in the evening rather than the day, and he came back feeling better too because science is his happy place. So, um, right, uh, we know it works. It's just sometimes getting out of our own way to just, like you say, finding the energy to get up and get dressed and eat and shower to get to the place where you do the science that makes you happy.
Yeah.
If you get there, if you get there,
Mhm.
right? If I got to the curling rings, but like I thought of like just like calling my, guys, now, I'm just going to pooch the game for y'all. And it's like, no, it's just like, I'm going to be worthless. I'm not going to be any good. I'm going to bring down the team. I'm going to like just go, just go. So I just went.
It's difficult to do.
It's difficult.
If you can force yourself to do it, you will feel better. But there are times when it's just like I said, a Sisyphean task. You just cannot do it.
Yeah. So, thank you, kids and cubs, like I said, for all the love. Looks like there are still clouds, but I see where the clouds are about to break, and there will be some sun coming through.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on the right end of the slope.
Oh, this is good.
Okay, but I do, again, best damn fam in all podcasting. This is one of the reasons why. So thank you. Fortunately, as well, thank you. It was a slow news day.
It was a pretty slow news day.
Yes, thank you, because I needed that. As you may guess, kids and cubs, I did not have the bandwidth to accomplish everything to which I aspired yesterday. So my contribution to the show might be slightly thinner today, but I do have some stuff. But one of the reasons we started a little later today is that we had a little pre-show meeting to decide how we were going to fit something in. And Mr. Grizzly found this one. So I can't take no credit for this whatsoever. But it brought me a little bit happy. So thank you, my friend. It was exactly what I needed. You know me so well. So Mr. Grizzly came bearing gifts. So I will let you take it from here, sir, on this one.
Just trying to source my second thing here that I had saved so that we can. There we go. I got it. Okay. We have two clips to show.
And by the way, I found the article of the Walrus that's there, so I don't know if you want me to lead with that before we show this or put it in later, but I'll let you tell me where that puts in.
Well, I have the article from the Walrus as well. Yeah. But yeah, we'll lead into that in a moment. I just wanted to start with this. From the other day, that there's two different viewpoints from this press conference that Pierre Poilievre had. And I'm going to show you one that was recorded by a different individual. The reason I'm showing it is because the CBC original feed had some glitches in it for some reason. It blanked out. So I'm going to share this press conference. It's about 5 minutes that we're going to show you. And then on the other side of it, we're going to address some things. Just relax.
To note that I'm being serenaded by some beautiful birds who are in the rafters over there. I'm hoping you're catching that audio. I want to thank this wonderful food bank, Fiscal, and his entire team of volunteers for the incredible work they are doing to feed the hungry. I understand, Fiscal, that Sidam Food Bank had 10,000 people it was serving in 2020, and that number has gone up to 70,000. Incredible. 2020 was the year when Mark Carney became economic advisor to Justin Trudeau. How's it been going? Apparently, Mr. Trudeau's been following his advice, but it goes the other way too. Yesterday, Carbon Tax Carney announced that he was going to repeat the exact same promise that Justin Trudeau made in 2015 on budgets. And get this, in 2015, Justin Trudeau said, and I quote, "He will run 3 small deficits, tiny deficits." Remember that? And that would fund the largest infrastructure investment in Canadian history to help the middle class and grow the economy. What has been the result? Well, those 3 deficits turned into 9 deficits. $25 billion of new debt turned into $700 billion of new debt. The debt, in fact, doubled in that time. And the middle class, 80% of them are paying more income taxes. None of them can afford a home. And we've had the worst economic growth in the G7. That is the result of the promise that Trudeau made 10 years ago. And now Mark Carney is promising 3 small deficits, which he says will somehow cause economic growth and help the middle class. My friends, this is deja vu all over again. Carney has the same advisors the same MPs, the same ministers, and making the same liberal promises that Trudeau made a decade ago, but he expects Canadians to be duped for a fourth time. Mr. Carney has been Trudeau's economic advisor for the last 5 years. And the only difference between Carney and Trudeau is that Carney is now making a promise to cook the books. He's planning to cook the books with a sneaky account.
A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit?
What?
Yeah, exactly.
To take billions of dollars of new Liberal spending off the budget records altogether.
No.
To be clear, this is not simply about differentiating between investments and spending. We already have that. It's called accrual accounting. Anybody who's taken a high school course in accounting knows that that means that capital expenditures are amortized over the life of the asset they purchase. That exists in the federal budgeting already. What Mr. Carney is talking about is taking tens of billions of dollars of new spending off the books, hiding it from Canadians, so that he can artificially lower the deficits that people see reported.
No.
A bullshit?
No. Not even freaking remotely close. No.
No. Well,
This is the first time I'm seeing this, kids, by the way.
Yeah, this is taken from another angle. There's the CBC feed, which has better audio, but it cuts in and out and goes to black screen frequently for some reason.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't watch this thing yet. So this is like my reaction is this. This is what I'm like instant like.
Yeah, this is from 4 days ago.
But that doesn't mean that Canadians won't have to pay the price. In fact, every single dollar the government spends is paid for by Canadian taxpayers, either through taxes today or inflation and debt tomorrow. Mr. Carney's promise will be that the operating budget will somehow balance while limitlessly spending inflationary dollars on pork barrel spending, pet projects, and liberal waste in order to reverse disastrous electoral consequences that the Liberals now face. Carbon tax.
A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit?
Your own promise of CFB Kaluit, that would be in that. No.
No, he's in a food bank sausage which in I believe in Toronto, and that's why you hear birds, because there's birds that nest there. There is better audio, but it cuts out frequently. So I thought I'd show this clip instead because it has his entire line of almost 6 minutes of complete gibberish. We'll continue. There's about 2 minutes left.
Carney cannot change the fact that money will come out of the pockets of the Canadian people. There's no magic to this. Every dollar government spends comes out of Canadians' pockets. Mr. Carney has not identified a single program from Justin Trudeau that he would cancel. On top of that, he has announced billions, if not...
That is not true. He already said he was going to cancel the carbon regulatory recovery fee for consumers, number one. And number two, he said he was killing the capital gains, the new capital gains tax, which, by the way, is problematic because it's not been put into legislation and Revenue Canada has been collecting it. But he's not canceling anything. This guy cannot tell the truth about anything, ever.
Tens of billions of dollars of additional spending he would tack on top of the current Liberal government's spending. My friends, you cannot get a change from the Liberal government by electing a Liberal government. A fourth Liberal term in office will be just like the previous three. It'll mean higher taxes, higher housing costs, more food bank lineups, raging crime in our streets. Only common sense conservatives will fix the budget for real. We will cut bureaucracy, consultants, corporate welfare, foreign aid, and other wasted money.
So he's going to unemploy thousands of people. How's that going to fix the economy? Is he going to give us a UB? No, he'll never do that.
You see how he just casually threw foreign aid in there in that list too, eh?
Yeah.
Consultants from foreign aid.
Just wants to sneak that one in. Basically, he's saying, hey, Ukraine, you're on your own, pal. Because he's in lockstep with Trump. We'll continue. There's about a minute left, a minute and 20 seconds left.
We will also bring in a new dollar for dollar law. that runs the finances of the country, like small businesses, seniors, and single moms run their budgets. Very simple. A new dollar of spending would have to be matched with a dollar of savings. You want to spend more over here, you have to spend less over there. And that will be passed into a law, the dollar for dollar law. We will bring down deficits, income taxes, and inflation. We will get rid of the carbon tax. We will lower income taxes. We will take the GST off new homes to save up to 50 grand on the purchase of a house so that our young people can afford a place to live like they could before the Carney-Trudeau Liberals doubled housing costs.
That won't do it.
Again, with the Carney-Trudeau Liberals, Mark Carney is not in government. He's running. He wants to be the Liberal leader, but he's not in government. It just never ends with this clown.
A big, beautiful, bring-it-home tax cut on work, investment, savings, home building, and making stuff in Canada. The purpose will be to bring home the $500 billion of investment that the Carney-Trudeau Liberals have driven out of our country to the United States of America. I want that money in our country, for our people. That's what it means to bring it home. We're going to bring it home to our country. We're going to put Canada first, Canada always.
Okay. Girl. Okay, first of all, he comes in and mentions the birds and wants to congratulate the volunteers. And it's in the same tone of voice that he talks about Trudeau and Carney. Again, so we know he's capable of soft voice. Hi, it's really nice to be here. Oh, look at the birds. Congratulations to volunteers. Carney and Trudeau. I'm like, okay, but the birds, Carney. He's got one mode. That was phoned in.
Well,
delivery of that was phoned in.
Without question, it was phoned in. But I love how he goes, the 3 small budgets in 2020, and then he leaves out the whole pandemic.
Well, that's
the whole global pandemic.
That's literally where it's going next, right? It was 3 small deficits. Okay, Trudeau became prime minister when?
2015.
2015. So so the 2015-2016 fiscal year, the budget was set by Harper. Correct. So that budget was closing. So 2016 is his first budget.
Correct.
2016, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19. What happened at the end of 2019?
Well, let's see, December 2019.
Something 19.
Yeah, something.
Where in what's that thing that had the 19 added to it that happened that bothered us for a few years? COVID-19.
Yeah. That changed everything globally, but he'll ignore that.
Let's just cut that part of history and then just say, and after those 9 years, we had this much debt. Yeah, he didn't. The fourth year was no longer a small deficit because
he needed to keep us alive.
Sometimes you just wish you could reach out through a screen and just shake someone.
Was it Theo Mudakas who showed us had the cartoon, the comic, political cartoon of a couple of people with F. Trudeau flags and Alberta separatism on their bumper stickers of their big truck while they were cashing their CERB checks at drive-through ATM?
Yeah. So this thing here, he turns around, the Carney's saying, right? In 3 years, he will balance the operational budget.
Mm-hmm.
Carney is saying that we need to present the budget between capital costs and operational costs. Pierre is calling this cooking the books.
Yeah.
It's not cooking the books. He's not changing any of the numbers.
Nope.
He's telling which numbers are for one thing that a government does. EI, Canada Child Benefit, environmental rebates if they're the operational costs. And then capital costs. Like, for example, suddenly we're going to be meeting our 2% of GDP for NATO commitment, or even 3.5 where Trump wants to put it, or even 5 or whatever. Well, that's going to require spending a lot of money on capital stuff all of a sudden. Big one-time, we're going to build a deep sea water port. Boom. We're going to build high-speed rail. Boom. We're going to build an LNG terminal or a new pipeline, for example, Pierre.
I really hope this high-speed rail gets built, but I honestly don't think it's ever going to happen. To be completely honest, I don't think it's ever going to happen. I would love for it to happen. I really would.
Here's the thing: if we get into a tariff thing, it's the perfect project.
It's the
perfect project. Canadian steel, Canadian all-purpose, a big capital project, jobs here. Doing a big capital, when that type of stuff happens, boosting your internal economy by having a huge big capital project, especially if you have the own materials that you can use. Yeah, absolutely. Put that in your back pocket. You might see it a little faster, actually, if Trump decides to go a little slap happy. The other way around. Because, I mean, that's, if you want to increase productivity inside a country, go to your largest population bases and make it easier for people to circulate and transport goods faster. That is directly related. That it just sounds like this dream visionary project like this, but it actually has some major economic impacts that can really help us if we're going into a trade war here, and we need to diversify our markets. But
that never even occurred to me. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. But if the tariffs, which are supposed to be levied on March 1st, is it, or March 30th
or 4th or something like that? Something like that. They're coming.
They're coming. So, well, yeah, no, that's an angle I've not viewed before. So thank you for that, because you just schooled me on something. But I do want to, there's a part of
Hold on. Just wanted to finish the capital and operational costs. So
go ahead.
So what he's doing is kind of say, if we're going to go into a period, for example, where we have to build new LNG terminals and new pipelines from coast to coast, that's going to cost a lot of money. Right? So if you're looking at the budget, you are always going to be in a major deficit. Correct. So stop this mindless thing that as soon as you see one number that's a deficit, oh my God, they ruined the economy. It's all this reckless spending. Well, we're going to. What you guys call the reckless spending is all the stuff that's in the operational budget. The stuff that keeps people alive. That helps them out when they're having a hard time like this. But you love building roads and buying weapons and all of that kind of stuff. So that's your capital stuff, and building pipelines, stuff like that. So we're gonna tell Canadians which ones are those big long-term projects that cost like 80, 60, 120, $20 billion, and we're gonna count for them there. And then all the stuff that you guys complain about. Oh, you're spending too much on Canadians to help them. That money should be going to businesses and tax cuts instead. Because that budget's going to be balanced in 3 years, because you can't budget. There's no way that anybody's going to be able to balance the whole budget. Even Pierre won't be able to. Not if we're spending that much more in military, and not if we have to build those pipelines and LNG centers and all those things that he wants. He's not going to balance the budget either. And if he's trying to pretend that he will, with all that, he is lying through his teeth like this. Or he is going to cut everything that you need to get by in a day.
There you go.
In order to achieve it.
This is the thing conservatives like to tell you. You can't run a country you have to run it like a household budget. No, you don't. You can't run a country's budget like a household budget.
Because the household never has to
like a business. You cannot do it.
A household never has to buy a missile dome defense system.
Not to mention the fact that eventually your household will no longer exist, because you will shuffle off this mortal coil someday. And guess what? Countries tend to stick around long after you're gone.
Longer timelines, bigger needs. It's not the same thing. It's like, yes, the principle of, right? Like this, okay, I need to spend this much money on this, so I'm going to cut back here. Yes, but nobody does a strict 1-for-1. If my roof goes like this, and it's going to cost me like $20,000 to fix it like this, I'm not suddenly cutting $20,000 of stuff this year to balance that out, because that means I don't eat. That's just dumb. Nobody lives like that. It's like, come on. I mean, if you don't have it, you can't spend it. That's a different thing. But tell me that everybody like this every month, like this $1 for one, we have to spend more like this, and we balance it out every month, and it doesn't change like this. That nobody borrows a little bit or dips or like this, or said, you know what? Okay, we're going to cut on this, but for 3 months, not just 1 month, in order to make this happen, or spread it out over time. Come on, this is not serious. Nobody runs a business or any household that has a little bit of leeway. Financial leeway does not run like that. That's just dumb. And those capital costs, the other thing, that's the thing when Pierre says cooking the books, it's not cooking the books, it's presenting the information in a way that gives people the information they need to make informed decisions and prevents other parties from representing all of the spending as being wasteful and reckless. But he's also saying that he's planning to hide those. He's not hiding them. He's not going to take them off the books. They're going to be there. It's capital costs. So when the Conservatives are going to be talking about all this reckless spending, and the operational budget is balanced in 3 years, but we're still racking up deficits of $20 or $30 billion a year because we're beefing up our military or building a new pipeline or whatever it is that we're building.
Well, he just talked about
when they start complaining. Yes, when they start complaining about it, well, then everybody else could turn around. So what is it about the deep sea port project that you do not like or would like to cancel? Thank you, because that's what that money is being spent on.
Well, remember the shipbuilding contracts that were awarded to a couple of different companies in the East Coast? They didn't have the capabilities of building them.
Nope.
Well, like they didn't have. Capital funds had to go in to build up the port so that they can actually build them.
And for a couple of years, Conservatives like, all this money spent, and there's not even the construction on a ship hasn't even started yet, because we're building the infrastructure so that we'll have a shipbuilding industry as well as just these 2 ships.
Saucy, anytime you need to deal with the person whose quote I just put on the screen, feel free. I'm not going to address it directly, but I will say if you accuse me of being anything other than 100% red-blooded Canadian who would kill for this country if need be, you can go fuck yourself. You call me a liar? Fuck you. Fuck you. Say that to my face. I fucking dare you, punk. I fucking dare you.
That thing that person did, that was not even worth it.
I know that.
It's so stupid. It's so stupidly fun. I mean, come on, dude.
No, but it's part of my brand.
I know.
I get fired up and I fight back.
From behind where you are. These are literally our faces. From behind where you are, doing throwing the fake thing, girl. Okay. Here's the thing. Okay. What I want you to do is turn off whatever device you're looking at. Okay. Then take it and put it in something that the city takes away to the trash bin. And whatever, before you do that, delete all your accounts, because I'm sorry, you're just too. You should not be allowed to use social media unsupervised. I'm sorry, darling. That's just, come on. 2 people show their faces, and you from behind where you are going to yell fake. Come on.
Well, here's the thing. I know they're trying to get under my skin, and believe it or not, they're not under my skin. They're not. But every now and then I want to address something. Every now and then I need it. You know what? What's the saying? What was it? The woman who was on her deathbed not too long ago, I think there was a meme. She said, I lived a good life. I did. I was happy. I enjoyed things. I saw the world. I traveled. I met beautiful people. I had a wonderful family. But the one thing I regret is not telling more people to go fuck themselves.
Right.
Sometimes you just need to say it.
Oh man, jeez.
I don't wear Velcro shoes. I wear slip-on redback spider boots. They're similar to Bloodstones.
Yes, it's just when you're in this business. Well, I mean, first of all, if you're online, right? And that's going to happen when you're in this business, right? This type of thing, right? The intent of it is to try to get a rise out of you. Because now, if you know it and you're playing along with it, that's one thing. But it's like all of this is like, there's a pattern, there's a playbook for the people who do these types of things. They try one thing and then there's another strategy and then they mix and like, but it's always the same damn thing. It's boring. It's tired. It's entirely predictable. It's completely unoriginal. And we all know that the number one cardinal sin on any social media is being boring. When somebody comes up, it's like, and you've never interacted with them ever before, and they purport to be able to tell you things about you or know who they are, all they are doing is screaming into the world, I talk about things I know nothing of.
Mm-hmm.
You keep doing that then. I mean, it's like, how is you saying something about claiming you know me when you haven't even met me supposed to affect me? Like, how do you think that, in what universe did you even think that that would land? You people usually do not take criticism from people from whom they would not take advice. And we've never met. Someone has a very, very, very high sense of themselves. A little humility goes a long way. Okay. Muffin. All right. On with the show. So.
Every now and then I just need to address something, that's all.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Come on. Like this. It's ridiculous. So, Mr. Grizzly, I finished the point about the operational and the other budget. There was something you wanted to go with this thing with Pierre.
Yes, to follow up. So there was a couple of other things that you didn't see in that particular clip. I'll try and find the other sources, but there is somebody who clipped it for us, and this is the thing of beauty. This is from that same press conference.
just 1 second. Whew.
Please, thank you. Well, I noticed that Mr. Carney uses a lot of slogans. He has been sloganeering his entire leadership campaign while I've been laying out real concrete policy plans.
I just can't. Let's do a review, shall we? Axe the tax. Common sense. Where you can't axe the tax, you better spike the hike. Stop the crime. Bring it home. Build the home. Now, because he has Canadian pride, Canada first. You're gonna look people in the eyes and talk about someone else sloganeering? You have the depth of a shallow puddle. All you have done is verb the noun. For 2, 3, 100 years? It feels like 100 years. And whenever you are asked a question about policy, the hows, you just revert back to your slogans. Mr. Poilievre, if elected Prime Minister, how are you going to help the economy? First, we're going to axe the tax. Then we will build the homes, which will then stop the crime. That's going to help us bring it home, because Canada first. Every fucking time! He's a fucking meatloaf. He's a meatloaf!
I showed that to Mr. Beaver before we started the show, and this was his exact reaction. So I'm like, he hadn't seen the press conference, right? So I'm like, oh, yeah. That man actually said with a straight face, Mark Carney's been doing nothing but sloganeering.
While he's been putting out policy.
He has no policy and no platform. All he does is verb the noun. Come on. Come on.
Oh, shit, girl. Oh, my God.
Yeah. It's just
These
like
people. Oh, my God. I mean, these people. Oh.
He could actually say that with a straight face because he believes the lies he tells.
Oh my God.
That's what it is. It's that simple. He believes the lies he tells. He has to. How else could you get away with that? Say, oh, he's been sloganeering. If you look up sloganeering in the dictionary, it should have Pierre Poilievre's picture. Now, there is one statement.
He's wearing Olympic gold medals for sloganeering around his neck while he's saying this.
There is one statement there that I do agree with, though. Build the homes, stop the crime. Yes.
Yeah.
If we get people housed, it will stop petty street level crime. It will.
But Pierre does not want to build those homes.
He won't build those homes.
Though. Those are the other kinds of homes.
He'll use people in tent cities as a backdrop without their permission and never even meet with a single one of them. He'll just use them as a backdrop in his videos. Use them as a cudgel, if you will, to tell you that we need to cancel those drug dens. You mean the thing that saved Guy Filicella's life? That place? You want to kill those? Come on, man. Come on. This is...
and layer that on top of the other, like at his Canada's first rally. It says, I was right all along. They're using all my policies.
What is he talking about?
This guy. Oh my God. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, here, kits and cubs, if ever you needed more evidence of just how comfortable this man is with lying, there you go.
Yeah.
He did that before cameras. It's like recorded for posterity forever.
Yeah. He actually said those things.
He consented to that look being captured and recorded for posterity. That does not sound like the psychological makeup that I would like for a prime minister.
Who will lie directly to your face and expect you to believe it.
What does that say about what he thinks about you?
Mm-hmm.
He would actually look at you and tell you, the new guy who's been on the scene for a couple of weeks, he's the one who's sloganeering.
Exactly.
Sign my petition here. Give me your data. Really?
Here,
wow.
My harp.
What else do you need?
Well, this is the thing.
What else do you need than that statement right there to teach you absolutely everything you need to know about this man? He will literally say anything. He will literally say anything and thinks that you are an empty urn and all you need to be is filled with his water.
I mean, so every time he speaks, it's a lot of
bullshit.
But oftentimes all I hear is,
have you ever had a dream that you want him to do you so much you could do anything?
I mean, that's literally what comes out of his mouth most of the time. Complete gibberish. Well, and Carol brings up a really good point here. PP is a criminal. Pierre Poilievre is a criminal. His election, his compliance agreement kept him out of jail.
Yep.
Like literally, his
compliance
agreement.
And he's also someone who's benefited from the proceeds of crime.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The in and out election. Conservatives pleaded guilty to that. He got some fruit from the poison tree.
Repeat offenders should never be released. Yeah, that doesn't
Jail, not bail.
That doesn't work well. So you're trying to tell me that somebody who is so desperate that they live on the streets and it's minus 30 and they'll commit a crime so that they get 2 hots in a cot, that we should lock them up forever instead of addressing the problem of homelessness and hunger and wage theft and low wages that they never discuss. They never talk about that.
Just throw people away.
Just throw them away because they're of no use to us. They're eaters. Why is it nobody ever wants to address the fact that people turn to desperate things because they are desperate? Why are they desperate? Because they can't earn enough money to pay their goddamn rent. I'm going to have to borrow money from my family to cover my rent this month. It's as simple as that. I don't have an EI is finally paying me what I was owed, but the first 3 checks were like half of what I was entitled to. So I have to call them and argue with them because they thought I was getting a severance package. I got 1 check in August. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody somewhere has committed fraud, and it sure as hell wasn't me. But if they told CRA that I was getting checks all the way up until the end of November, I want them to pay. And I don't even care if I get the money back. I want my former employer to be held responsible for lying to the government. Because that's fraud. If they said they were still sending me money when they didn't, I never got a final pay statement. I never got my record of employment. I got 1 check in August, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. And not getting the record of employment sure made other things difficult now, did it?
Yes. And they can say, well, it might have got lost in the mail. You never sent it. The strike didn't happen until October. My last day of work was July 30th. Doesn't take you that long to build an ROE. You had a severance package ready to go for me, which means you would have had my ROE already drawn up. So I want somebody to be held responsible for that. I want my final pay statement. I want to know if I'm owed extra money. I may very well be. Because if, like I said, if EI and CRA seem to think I was getting paid up until the end of November, I have some words for a few people.
Yep.
But getting back to what I was saying a moment ago, people get desperate and do desperate things because they are in desperate situations. Why do homeless people use drugs? So they can escape the pain they're in. Living on the street is not easy. I've never had to do it, but one of our good friends here in the chat did for decades. And they can speak to it personally about how difficult it is when you're barely hand to mouth day in and day out. They are now housed.
And contributing.
Exactly.
You don't give up on people.
Locking up people and throwing away the key only works for somebody like Paul Bernardo. For somebody who's committed, so you're going to hold somebody.
And even then, we don't throw away the key.
No, we don't. We
do not do that in Canada.
We don't do it.
Do not.
They still have their fundamental right to a parole hearing every few years. And I don't
loses their mind because of it.
That should not be taken away. You have the right to that hearing. You should have it. Hey, people got all bent out of shape about Pat King's conviction. And my take on it, people tried, that must really get under your skin. No. What? Well, I think he should have got the 10 years, but I'm not a judge. I didn't hear the trial. The judge heard all the evidence that was presented to him. He made a decision based on that evidence and felt that the 9 months served plus 3 more months under house arrest is enough. Do I agree with it? No. Am I upset by it? No. Justice prevailed. He was tried, and he's now a convicted criminal, which means he can't get a passport, he can't leave the country, and there's a lot of places he'll never be able to work or be employed. So, in a weird way, he is getting sentenced to life in prison because his options are now extremely limited. And
he considers Canada to be a prison, apparently. So
apparently he has a job in Montreal. And he's going to move to Montreal after this. I'm like, who's going to rent to him? Okay, that's interesting. How is it going to go over in Montreal when Quebecers find out it's Pat King from Alberta who said all those terrible things about Quebecois and Francophones and people of color? How's that going to go over, Pat? You dug your own hole on this, man. You dug your own hole. I think his punishment in the long term is going to be much worse than 10 years in the clink. Who's going to employ that guy? Who's going to employ him? Because the minute people find out where he's employed, that company's going to face a litany of shit. Sure, he'll have his supporters. Those people do exist. But there's more of us than there are of you. There are more Canadians on the right side of history on this one.
Yep. That's always been the case. Y'all may be the loudest.
Well, you remember the great political cartoon. Everybody supports us.
Yeah.
No, we fucking don't.
Yep. The honks one. Yeah, the sign. That's one. It was my favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
It was my favorite one from the entire thing. Oh, God. Okay.
Coffee. I'll be right back, sir.
All right. So, slower news day, which was, like I said, very good, but still some very important things took place, of which you should be aware, kits and cubs. Among them, there was the first of the two debates for the Liberal leadership race, which they took place in Montreal. It was French yesterday, and English will be tonight. I think yesterday was 7:45, so I think it might be somewhere around the same time. But I will try to find some time to look that up for you when Mr. Grizzly's back and he's talking to get you an exact time. But last night, I believe, was 7:45. I would assume it would be the same thing tonight as well. So let's see. And when Mr. Grizzly comes back, we'll chat a little bit about that there. The other thing that happened over the course of the weekend that we said we would get back to was that Cross Canada Checkup show that CBC did. It looked like they were going to be entertaining, where they did entertain the subject of Canada as a 51st state, but it seemed that the goal, the question as asked at first was, what does Canada as a 51st state mean to you? And that caused a lot of people to get upset. The question sort of got to change to, what do you think about Trump's comments about the 51st state? Which is a slightly better frame, but doesn't make this much better. Now, there's a lot of people that think like, okay, but there could be some worth to this type of show. Yes, there could be, but it has to be done well. So you'd have to like pick questions and put some framing and all that kind of stuff that would sort of want to direct the conversation to where it is that you wanted to go in order to get that thing that could be good from it. And Mr. Grizzly, I sent you a link to the show because we'll be showing a couple of clips from it. Unfortunately, that did not happen here. I watched it. I didn't want to, because I didn't want to validate and I didn't want to add to the numbers, but we're doing what we're doing here and we got to know what we're talking about. So I watched it. It was bad.
Oh,
it was really bad. It was a co-production by CBC and NPR. So it was hosted by Ian Hanomayansing and someone Hobson, I think it is, from a show called The Middle. The host from The Middle is terrible.
Oh,
terrible. This was the second. This was the second type show. Apparently, they did one before the U.S. inauguration, I think, or something. So it's a concept that worked for them. It was supposed to be some type of phone-in show And it lasted 2 hours. There were phone calls taken, but it wasn't all a phone-in show. Right? They had some scheduled guests. So they had Arlene Dickinson, for example.
Mhm.
But they also had scheduled Kevin O'Leary.
Sure.
Now, again, don't come and try to make me believe that this is supposed to be a serious conversation that's being presented if you bring in Kevin O'Leary as a guest. Now, those segments I can understand if you brought in some experts and whatnot like this to talk about this type of stuff. 2 or 3 minute interviews. Get some primer to get some information. But just, you happen to be a famous person, tangentially involved somewhere with business. Let's ask you a couple questions. Who's appeared on the CBC? Yeah. The actual people
Mhm.
that were phoning in were never given enough time to talk. If we're talking about an issue, if the subject is, hey, some guy south of us who is extremely unstable, and you've seen what he's done to other people, or he's allowed happen, sat idly by while things were happening to other people, watching it on TV, is doing and saying and threatening to annex us, you might have some feelings about that that you may need more than 90 seconds to express. So they were trying to rush the calls through.
Mhm.
So couldn't really get much in depth. The hosts spent a lot of time during the show justifying the need for the show.
Here's the thing. I happen to like Ian Hannamansing. I do. I think he's very good at his job. He's a talented presenter, good-looking man. I think he's a level-headed individual. I take umbrage with the fact that he did say to Kevin O'Leary, "I will not challenge you on any of the things you're saying on this show." I'm like, what? That's your job. That is your job.
But here's the thing, right? This type of show wasn't supposed to be that type of show where somebody was supposed to be bringing these types of things. Right? It's supposed to be Canadians, what do you think about this? Americans, have you heard about this? What do you think about this? There was why did Kevin O'Leary need to be involved in that in any way, shape, or form? Because Kevin O'Leary certainly didn't stick to the theme and the mood of the show. He had lots of anti-tribal liberal rants in there, and Ian Manson not only did not challenge him on the facts, but not only said, "That's not what the show's about here, sir."
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
We understand that you believe this, but that's not the purpose of this show. Could you please give our listeners what it is that they've come here to the show to get? Please. This is not the time to be the person that Kevin O'Leary plays on TV. Thank you. Could have done that. So as far as I was concerned, it didn't add anything much whatsoever. There's no reason for this. It was terribly done. There didn't seem to be any driving point. It was kind of put together in a way that kind of makes you feel that they did change the whole focus of the show or try to change it somewhere along the way, but didn't want to really change too much, so try to make things fit. At times it was uncomfortable to watch. Actually,
do you have any timestamps for me?
I do have some.
Okay.
So for me, it didn't add anything other than exposing audience in the United States to how big this is playing here, because it was broadcast on C-SPAN and 170 NPR stations.
Oh, okay. So it did
at the same
reach
time.
a fair
So in that sense,
swath of people.
yes. So again, the concept is good, but the execution was horrible. There were 4 moments in particular that caught my eye. Oh, somebody do something, Mr. Grizzly. You came across something?
Yeah, I got a. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just going to address this quickly because it makes me chuckle. Somebody in the chat, I'm not even going to pick on them. It just says, I know of a restaurant that is still doing takeout only because they can't find any wait staff who will work for the wages they pay, that they're willing to pay and paid before COVID. That's because they're not paying enough. You know why people left service industry jobs? Because they weren't making enough money. And they had a chance to break those handcuffs and get away. I'm sorry, man. You just defeated the purpose of your own argument by saying that. They can't hire anybody because they were paying the same wages before COVID and they want to pay them still. They're not paying them enough.
And
That
also,
is the problem.
A lot of these restaurants also decided that it's actually more economic for them to run as a takeout only.
Yeah.
The bus boys, the wait staff, the dishwashers, all that kind of stuff for the number of people who actually come and sit in wasn't worth it. People adapt.
Yeah.
People adapt.
Yeah.
If you're going to give them a set of circumstances and things change, people will adapt.
I had friends who had worked in the service industry for a very long time, and COVID came around. They had the first opportunity to get a break. Okay, so they got no money coming in. CERB came along. They're like, oh, thank God I can breathe now. But the first time they actually had a break, hadn't had vacation in years. And some of them said, you know what? I used to study in this field. I think I'm going to go back to study in that field. I know a few people who went back to school and have left the service industry altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Because for the very first time in their life, they were able to do that.
People upskilled.
Yeah.
Yeah. That happened.
And then you'll have people
adapted.
say, well, if they did that while they were on CERB, they should pay that CERB money back because they increased their... So
they're going to be paying it. They're going to be paying it back in higher taxes from the higher salaries they earned because they upskilled.
Exactly.
So I resenting people because an opportunity came along and they chose to make the most of it to improve their lives is a weird flex.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Isn't that what we're supposed to be encouraging people to do?
I thought so.
Sorry, but again, I'm not. The logic proposition no makey sensey here. Come on, man. You got to game these things out. If the argument you're making is true, what does that mean? Well, and if it means that, what consequences does that have? You got to think it through to the end. You can't just stop with the first third. That first third means something, and if that means something, it has X consequence. You have to look at the whole argument. Don't stop at the first third.
Every time I get into a conversation with somebody who supported the convoy and tells me I'm a liberal cuck soy boy, I'm allergic to soy, and I like my ribeye rare with a shot of Canadian Club neat and a pint of Guinness. Okay, number one. Number two, when people go on about, you know how much money I lost during COVID? Yeah, because I lost too. You seem to think you're the only one who suffered? The money I lost during COVID, I will never recover. Never. Then the company was sold to another company, and when that new company bought the company I was with, they eliminated our vehicle allowances after I had signed a lease for a new vehicle. Now that's on me. I signed a lease for a new vehicle because it was a job requirement, and part of my employment contract was a vehicle allowance, which covered my lease. So I had to eat that. During the year after I went back to work, the main company cut our vehicle allowances altogether. So I was, and I was only working at 80% of my salary. So 80% of my salary and no vehicle allowance. Plus I had sat at home for a couple of months with no income other than CERB. So all of the money I lost in that time period and all of the suffering I went through and the fact that I had to sell my car eventually because I could no longer afford to keep it. But I didn't suffer. Everybody else did, but not me. It's just, They seem to
Everybody
think it was a singular event. I
Yeah.
suffered. I couldn't visit my dad in the hospital. Well, guess what? Neither could I. And my father almost died during COVID. Not of COVID. He had to have an emergency surgery at that time. Thankfully, he survived. He's still here with us. But I couldn't go and see him. My mother was allowed to go and see him in full PPE, head to toe. Mask, face shield, you name it. She was the only one allowed to visit him. People carry on like it only happened to them. It happened to all of us, man. We all felt it. We all had to deal with it. And I'd say a vast 80% of us just did what we needed to do to keep moving forward, to keep the country on track, to lift each other's spirits during a very difficult time, one that none of us had ever experienced before. When was the last time the entire planet shut down?
Hmm. And now they're talking about it like it was something that happened like on a Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we can just like move over from and it's the biggest everything, political shock, economic shock, psychological, mental health shock, everything that the world has experienced in the last 100 years. Probably in its history, actually, because, at the time of the Spanish flu, so we weren't as interconnected.
No, we weren't.
As we are.
And there weren't nearly as many people.
It's like, it was... I love how all these people could just like turn around and say like, yeah, well, like it was, I don't know, like it was a snowstorm that we had, that well, like we just had, where you couldn't get by like for about a day or two or something like that, but then everything cleared up. It was 3 damn years.
Yes.
And it's like millions died around the world. It was dramatic. Like you said, the entire world stopped. For a few days, the entire world agreed on something.
Sweden didn't shut down, and how well did that work out for them?
Yeah, that didn't work out for them at all.
No.
I know, they bring that all the time.
Sweden didn't shut down.
That day that I was invited on that show where that call-in show, the one time I did Spaces, like that's what ended up being like a huge sabotage thing that I ended up walking into. Somebody brought that Sweden thing around. Like this one's like, well, fuck, I don't know the facts about Sweden off the top of my head. And then I went and looked at it. It's like, oh yeah, look at deaths per capita.
Yes. Yeah.
Between Canada and Sweden. Then get back to us.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Which one of us did better? And Sweden is saying, we seriously screwed the pooch on that one.
Yeah. We get like this. Look at all the data for Sweden. Don't stop. Like in the first 2-3 months, because we're in the first year. Like look at all the data. See how that played out. Because there's the short hit from now. Oh my God, we're so restricted. Look at this, and their numbers are greater than ours. Yeah, let time do its thing and see how that works out over the long run. Let's see who played the long game back then. Again, if you remember when all of this started, there's the one thing I told you all. When all of this was done, if you turned around and you said, gee, the government sure did overreact, and the results are better than other places, that means the government did the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because when people are dropping with flies, okay, in curling, we have a term that's called tolerance when we throw a stone, when we're trying to decide what weight we're going to throw the stone. And we'll say tolerance is light, which is if you're going to make a mistake on the light side so that there's still something in front. Because if you go too deep, you're going to give them something to come to and rest against. And that's going to hurt us. Or something they can bounce off of. Or sometimes, if there's something back there that you can rest against, well, then you'll say tolerance is heavy. Because you don't have to make the shot precisely. You got something, you could be off by a couple of degrees, it'll land on something and will stop the momentum, it'll stop the place. So, if anything, throw a little more, tiny more than you might need. When it comes to novel viruses that are wiping people out. Tolerance is towards heavy, doing more than you need to keep people alive, rather than light. Always. It's just common sense.
Mm-hmm.
So if your starting premise isn't, in a pandemic, it's better to use a sledgehammer
Mm-hmm.
to swat a fly than a hammer.
Correct.
The premise with which you're starting has a complete and utter and rather depraved disregard for human life.
Well,
It's just that simple.
yeah, it is that simple.
So we will not be having the same discussion. Right? But that becomes a values thing. And then if that's what we're starting, then maybe the discussion that we should be having should be about the values. Because if your position is in a pandemic, the government should not be doing everything, throwing everything they've got at keeping people alive. If it's anything other than that. Ethically, we have a problem. We have a problem. We definitely don't agree on what it is that a government should be doing and should not be doing. So, again, you got to think these things through. Sometimes you got to bring it down to fundamental principles. When the poop hits the fan, do you first protect stuff or do you protect people?
You're supposed to protect people. It's kind of the job of government. That is their number one requirement, is to protect people. That's why we have things like, food inspection agency, water treatment plants, silly little things like that. But they're slowly eroding those in the United States of America, where they want to get rid of OSHA, which is the occupational safety health for workers. So people in construction can now be literally thrown into a meat grinder, and nobody's going to care.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are certain things that are non-negotiable, right? That's one of them. So if a politician's going to stand in front of a mic says the number one job of a government is to protect its people, protect the country, or defend the Constitution, then you actually have to do it when the moment comes, right? You can't be going, but the economy. No, you got to do those things. If it's the time to protect the people, you got to protect the people, and you spare no expense. Right? You just do it. So, back to this, the debate, the cross-Canada checkup, sorry.
Yes.
The first clip I want to show you here is at 1:01, so 1 hour, 1 minute, technically 2 seconds if you can hit it, but 1 hour, 1 minute is fine.
101?
Yes, 1 hour, 1 minute.
Okay, so
So
we got 1 hour and 57 seconds. I think that's
okay,
pretty good.
that's pretty good enough. We have a caller who you will, I won't tell you how it is that they identify, but you will hear it there. And they're bringing a very legitimate question. And just keep the interaction going until the end of the call, Mr. Grizzly. And tell me if you think that this type of hosting and interaction really respected or highlighted or tried to get in or engage or in any way add more to the point that was being brought, even validate or acknowledge the point that was being made.
Okay. You know.
1683333 is how you can take part in our cross-border call-in show here, or go to cbc.ca/aircheck. And Devin Carlos is in Kitchener, Ontario. Hi, Devin.
Hello, how are you?
Good. What would it mean for you if this ever were to come to pass?
Well, I am a trans woman, and I'm one of the people on Blue Sky who was quite a little amped that you were even talking about the idea of what the idea of a 51st state could mean. And many of the trans people I know in the States are terrified, and I'm terrified for them and for me. I would very likely have to flee the country.
And so, actually, let's back up for a second, because you mentioned Blue Sky, and I got a lot of posts directed towards me from people who were incensed that we would even do this show. Was that your feeling before the show went to air, that we shouldn't even have this conversation?
No, I understand why you're doing it. I feel like Americans need to hear this. I don't know how many Americans get to hear Canadian voices very often, and so this is an opportunity. That said, I belong to a community that is under threat, and I may not be representative of the rest of Canada. So, please go on.
Yeah, I mean, and so when you hear Donald Trump say again and say yet again that Canada should become the 51st state, first of all, do you take it seriously?
Seriously, but not literally, yes. I consider it's the possibility of an abusive husband trying to alienate his partner from the rest of the world. Americans, we really care about you. You're our friends and have been for over a century. And it's only now that we've even had to consider the possibility. If Canada were to be annexed, I think it's very naive to think that we would be given political representation, that we would be a territory.
All right.
We would be taxed. What happened when the Americans were taxed with their representation?
Okay, Devin, thank you very much for calling, and I do appreciate hearing your voice and that you took the time to talk to us.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
What was wrong with that? Did anybody notice what was wrong with that? Because I heard someone say that if Canada becomes the 51st state, I might have to flee. Now, if this person was on my show, that would, if I was listening to the caller and actually cared about what the caller said and wanted to engage with the caller, flee would make my ears prick up. Flee? Tell me about this flee thing. But what did Ian do? I want to go back to Blue Sky because a lot of people were upset with me for doing this. Like this, what do you think about that? And then Devin comes back, talks, and then, says something about the community being under threat. And Ian responds, so when Trump says 51st state, do you take him seriously? Again, my community is under threat.
No compassion, no empathy, no nothing. Here's the other issue. What Ian, I don't know if he's failed to realize this or just ignored it or didn't pay attention to it, but if we were to be annexed by the United States of America, how long do you think Ian would have a job for?
And then at the end...
they would destroy the CBC first, but he'd be axed immediately. Kind of like what they did to these folks at MSNBC just yesterday. And look at all these folks. All the folks who exited NBC today, seen together. Oh boy. What do you see about those folks?
MICKYMIDEI.
Yeah. They want a white ethno-state. They're using Gilead as an example. The Handmaid's Tale is a handbook as far as they're concerned, and Project 2025 is well underway. And if you think they're not going to try and annex us, our one saving grace there might be the fact that you will have enough generals in the army with a go. We're not doing that. They're our friends and our allies.
So anyway, what I saw in that clip was a host, again, justifying the reason for the show to exist with the first question. And then, of course, hiking up your skirt for clicks on the Trump thing. You have somebody that called in and talking about what this could mean specific for the trans community, that they feel that they have to flee and their community is on threat, and you did not engage with the person or the point. No. You had questions that you wanted answered about blue sky and what do you think Trump was, and you tried to fit. And then at the end, when they're trying to make a point of, well, even if we were putting in, you really think that they would give us the vote? Well, thank you. That's time to end the call. So anything that was substantive about what this reality would be like, you did not want to engage in, but that's supposed to be the whole point of the show, right? When I say it was bad, it was bad. Mm-hmm. Do you think this person felt hurt in any way?
Oh, God, no. Not in the least.
126.35 is the next clip that I have. Now, of course, because this is being broadcast over 170 NPR stations, a lot of the callers from the United States were people you would expect to be NPR listeners.
Okay.
So we have someone from a domain.
Of Trump's comments about Canada becoming the 51st state.
And do you want to take this next caller?
Oh, I can. Sure. David Rovinsky is with us from Burlington, Vermont. David, what are your thoughts? Are you being impacted by Trump's comments so far about Canada?
Well, hi, good afternoon. Well, this has affected me actually professionally because I am a political scientist, an American political scientist, and for decades I've done research and I've written about and I've taught about Canadian politics at American universities. I'm also the secretary of an academic group called the Association for Canadian Studies in the United States, and we exist to promote Canadian studies at American universities. We have about 1,000 members. And what we're doing right now is organizing our biennial conference in Seattle this November, starting November 13th. We usually hope for somewhere around 200 to 300 papers, and we've actually been having a lot fewer submissions than usual, mostly because a lot of the Canadians who participate in the conference, who regularly participate every 2 years, have told us they're not coming this year. Partly it's for a number of reasons. Partly it's the Canadian dollar. Partly it's worry that they are not going to be able to get across the border easily, and partly that they do not want to be supporting American conferences. So it's kind of strange. We are not a political organization, but it seems that we've hit the point where our simply doing research on Canada has become a political act here in the United States. And it's we're taking sides in politics simply by existing, and that's not our intention. But we think that when incidents like this happen, when ridiculous statements like calling for Canada to become to be annexed, to be the 51st state, as Trump puts it, it's one of the reasons that we believe our organization. It's important that our organization plays an important role in maintaining Canada-U.S. relations.
David, thank you very much for that. And Ian, I'm glad that he brought up the fact that people may not want to travel to the U.S. because that is a part of the story that I think a lot of Americans don't even realize right now, but that there is kind of a boycott going on by many Canadians of American goods and American travel.
Yeah, a lot of people taking that very seriously. I have a group of friends who normally never talk about things political, and I see them usually on the weekend. And for weeks now, they've been talking about how diligently they've been trying to source Canadian as opposed to American products and not going down to the United States. We're into the last.
All right. So again, no engagement with the caller, though. Research is being affected now.
Mm-hmm.
Research, academics, no, they don't want to go. They're not submitting papers. Gee, what implications could that have? Let's get into that for 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you. Gee, I don't think Americans are realizing that a lot of people are canceling their travel. Research. Talk about it.
Well, this really was an exercise in
The people are
self-aggrandizement,
bringing.
I guess.
The people are bringing the subjects.
Mm-hmm. And they're just not doing anything about it.
Last one, 109.31. This is going to be a dual clip.
109?
Because, 109. Yeah, we're going back on this one.
Okay.
Because this person brings something up. And the reason these ones, I'm showing them out of order, is that someone calls in later and adds a +1 to this. So,
okay.
And we'll show you both of them. So this is the first one, 109.31. And this one just like made me, what?
Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, John. Yeah. Hey, John, are you there?
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Yeah, this is John. Our caller is John Scopp in Vancouver. I should say for people who are watching and listening, we are juggling a lot of things here on multiple networks, a computer document in front of us that has a lot of information on it. John, you're in Vancouver.
I do the same thing every morning.
And how would your life change? Because I think this is something that you've talked about and you'd like to talk about. How would your life change if Canada were a state?
Well, first, I just want to point out that over 90% of Canadians want no part of this. So becoming part of the U.S. would be by force if they could somehow overcome our own fierce resistance. So is anybody on this program invoking international law and clearly saying that one country taking over another is 100% illegal? I mean, we're going to have a program next from the Ukrainian-Russian border asking how Ukrainians feel about Russia's friendly proposition to make them part of Russia. I mean, come on, folks. This is outrageous.
Yeah.
I am a dual citizen. My wife and daughter and I moved here 20 years ago, basically to get out of the U.S. to make a better life for our daughter. I was, occasionally an activist in the U.S., and I felt bad about leaving. I do what I can from here. That's why I remained a U.S. citizen, so I can vote. But I just find it outrageous that we can contemplate this without bringing up the fact that we're talking about insane aggression here.
Yeah,
I'm no part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it is so hard, John, for a lot of people to figure out how to even react to these comments, because on the one hand, I know a lot of people who don't even take it seriously, number one. Number two, people who don't want to give it oxygen or talk about it out loud because they think by doing that is going to create a problem, and maybe it'll turn into something. But then there are others who say, listen, this is serious. He may be serious, and it is important to be very public about, opposition to it.
Oh, sure. But I think, I don't hear talk about international law and the fact that what he's talking about is an act of war. Mm-hmm. And it should be looked at as that, very seriously.
Yeah.
And that it's an act of war, and we should be clearly stating that.
Yeah. All right, John, thank you very much for your call. Our number here is 1-888-416-8333. Whichever
dropped the
side
ball,
of the border
brother.
You're on.
Okay, stop. Okay. Again, right? If they had done the show, they could have brought people in from Ukraine. They could have brought people in from Taiwan, right? They could have talked about what does that feel like? We could have had those types of discussions. We could have had that type of quality and content. Because guys, come in. Again, we're talking about this. What does it mean to 50? Is anybody going to mention that this is a violation of international law? He goes, we're talking about insane aggression. Mm-hmm. And where does Ian go? Not with the point. Well, some people are like this, and some people don't even think like we should be talking about this out loud because, again, justifying the fucking need for the show. But does not engage with the point that this is a declaration of war, which of course would make this show sound silly, right? Mm-hmm. It's a declaration of war. Well, gee, what would be the 51st state mean to you? How about we talk about the fact that war was declared on us?
Yeah.
Rather than Mintridi.
Well, I mean, let's remember why Trump wants to do this. Okay, he wants to invade Canada because he wants our minerals and our oil. Because he doesn't like the trade agreement that he signed 6 years ago, saying it was the greatest trade deal ever in history that he negotiated himself. Now he's saying, who negotiated this terrible deal? You did. And now you want to rip it up again because it doesn't favor you. Well, you guys buy our oil. Stop buying it from us. We'll sell it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Then you'll find yourself in trouble because all those refineries in Texas are designed to refine our heavy oil, not the light, sweet Texas crude. Shit, that stuff comes out of the ground. You can practically put it in your automobile. Your refineries will go out of business if we decide to start trading and selling our oil with somebody else. It's just the level of absurdity here. I'm sure Monty Python writers were going like, well, we never thought about that. I mean, the Royal Canadian Air Force, this hour is 22 minutes. They don't have to write anything anymore. It's just written for them. All you do is just point out the hypocrisy in people like Pierre Poilievre and Donald Trump on almost a daily basis, and the comedy writes itself. It's disturbing, but it's true. It writes itself. And then you have somebody who I've admired and respected for a long time completely dropping the ball on this. Like, Ian, brother, I expect better. I expect better.
When I say it was bad, I was like, when the whole show was over, it's like, what was the point of this? You had the resources. You had the resources of the CBC and NPR, and this is the best you could do. The last clip I wanted to show 148. Yeah, about 148. And this is the +1. So there's clearly a caller that felt like me, that this point had not been engaged with as it needed to be.
Okay, let's have a look.
Toronto.
Let's get back to the phones, and Marcellus Atkins is calling from Ottawa, Ontario. Marcellus, you're calling from Ontario, but you are an American living there. What do you think about all this?
Yeah, correct. My wife and I live here in Ottawa. And first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I really do appreciate an opportunity to add my voice to this conversation. I am a U.S. military veteran also. So living here, one of the things in the military is, we were always taught to respect our commander-in-chief, the president. And at this point, I just want to say, to anyone listening, I do not. I cannot, because the president's supposed to be the best of us, and this is not what we're seeing. Concerning the 51st state comments, in my opinion, I think one of the previous callers nailed it, saying that this rhetoric is truly, it's war. It's warfare. It's verbal warfare. Any country that tells another country, either you give me your sovereignty, you give me your land, or I'm going to punish your trade routes. I'm going to punish you with tariffs and things like that. Those are violent statements that should not be ignored by the international community. And I'm hoping that at some point something is done to kind of tone that down or eliminate that altogether. Concerning whether or not I think he's serious, only Donald Trump knows how serious he is, but I believe that Canadians need to take him seriously because he wants something. We don't know what it is, and he may not fully know what it is, but at some point I do believe it's going to come to light what he's after. And so I think that's, in my opinion, where Canadians need to do what they're doing. And
well, Marcellus, let me just ask you a quick follow-up, which is, first of all, thank you for your service to the country. And if we were to play this out, and we heard from Senator Heidi Heitkamp, who actually believes that Trump is serious about this, if he were to somehow take Canada by force, people like you in the military would be involved in that. That's got to be just an unbelievable thing to even consider American, troops being involved in forcing their way in.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends in the military and our former military members. We've had these conversations. We're just dumbfounded. We're going, what would that even look like? I mean, would it look similar to the Civil War, where you've got, a civil war inside of America, where you've got troops firing on civilians? And I'm not trying to amplify it. I'm just saying, what would that even look like? To have these nations, because we're so intertwined.
Right.
How would that even play out? So I'm with you and my family. We're talking about, what are we going to do if it comes to that? Are we going to, stay here, head out, fight? I mean, I'll fight alongside Canada. I'm telling you right now, we have a Canadian flag flying outside my home right now to show solidarity. And it's not that I'm turning my back on my country. I'm turning my back on Donald Trump. He is not representative of me. And if I could just quickly say one thing to Canadians, first of all, he does not speak for all Americans, so please understand that as you're dealing with us. We are not necessarily represented by this man. But additionally, I think, Jeremy, I don't know if you have children. I know, Ian, I think you're a grandfather is what I saw online, which is congratulations.
Thank you. You,
I'm sure will be teaching your kids to protect themselves against people who are trying to force them to do something they don't want to do. And one of the greatest things we can do is say no. And I would say to all Canadians, no means no. Donald Trump understands exactly what that means in his personal life, his professional life. No means no. Don't keep joking. Don't keep asking. I've told you no. Stop. That, I think, needs to be the Canadian position is no means no. We're not giving in. Stop.
Marcellus, thank you very much for that call.
I love the fact he's flying a Canadian flag in the United States, or I guess he's in Ottawa now. He's an American living in Ottawa, but still, that's very interesting. And anyway,
okay, that was not the interesting fact about that conversation, Ian.
No, it's.
And then Guy from the middle. Again, you did not engage with the point. You stayed on military stuff, talking about how would you feel if you were asked to do this stuff. But again, it's a declaration of war. Please engage with the point. So the point was made. They didn't engage with it. Somebody came in and said, I think this guy nailed it when he said it was that. They still won't talk about it. What was the purpose of the show? Because the callers brought the stuff, but the host did not seem to be equipped to handle it. The host did not want to have the conversations the callers proposed. The callers came in to have the conversation the host asked for, but the host didn't seem to want to have the conversation they asked for. When Kevin O'Leary was on, by the way, talking about, he did the thing that we mentioned last time we talked about him in this capacity. We focused a lot on the Canadian dollar. If all our Canadian dollars were turned to American dollars at parity right now, like this, who wouldn't take that deal? And again, you do realize that also means you give up your central bank and your monetary policy. Common currency. He keeps on talking about common currency to try and sell it to the people who don't realize that common currency also means common central bank, which means you no longer control your monetary policy. And if a nation does not control their monetary policy, how sovereign are they? And Kevin says we can fix that by adding 2 Canadian governors on the board in order to keep inflation in check. And there are 7 governors on the board already. So an economic union, according to Kevin O'Leary, eliminates the Bank of Canada, gives us common currency, and 2 of now 9 seats on the U.S. Fed. Oh yes, we're really going to sway stuff with that. There's no reason for Kevin O'Leary to be on that show.
None whatsoever.
He did not add to that conversation. So again, it's like that's why I'm saying this. I got the impression that the show was supposed to be one thing, and then people got mad, and then they tried to flip it by retaining as much as possible, and then we just got this thing that was neither one and neither the other.
Mm-hmm.
It was not really a phone-in show, and wasn't really discussing real things having to do, because those things were mentioned passing and not engaged with, rather than talk about pop stuff in between. There was probably as much time given to short interviews with people that weren't phone-in callers, including the one with Kevin O'Leary that added nothing. But instead of going to get quality interviews with people that have experienced things in other countries, similar things, or from an actual trade perspective or a poli-sci perspective, we get two people who were on Dragon's Den. Heidi Heitkamp, U.S. Senator.
Yeah. Well,
get us the Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine.
Saucy's comment here: it amuses me when Poilievre suggests CBC is too liberal. like,
if there was anything liberal about this, is the fact that they allowed a trans person on to say something.
About it.
It's just, oh man, it was bad. It was bad. It was poorly conceived. It was poorly executed. It was a bad product. Fortunately, the best thing about it was the actual callers. Would have been nice if the people doing the show actually cared about the callers during a call-in show. Okay, so right?
Mm-hmm.
Kids and Cubs, please, if you're in the chat, let me know if I'm way out there. But from those exchanges, from the points of view of whatever the hosts brought or the format of the show, did you get anything out of it, or did you just really get anything strictly out of the words that the caller said? Did anything the hosts do add anything to your understanding of the points?
Well, that was a complete exercise in self-indulgence and nothing more.
Listen, people are saying, right, listen, and I want you to understand when people are going the CBC's in bed with Trump. No. CBC's not in bed with Trump.
No, they're not.
The CBC has a mandate and all this, but the CBC clearly is not adverse standing on a corner and hiking up its skirts for clicks. This was clickbait. It's 2 hours of clickbait. Come and watch the show like this, and then there's the show is just it's like trying to pick up a cat that's sleeping. There's no spine. It's just ugh.
We're trying to.
There's Jello.
Trying to carry a passed out drunk person into a house.
Yeah, it's this is the CB freaking C, man.
Yeah,
there's a level of quality we expect.
We did not get, not that day.
There is a mandate. There are goals. There are objectives. There's a promoting Canada, Canadianness, that type of stuff like this. There was no message here ultimately that Canadians. There's an exception to every rule, of course. Canadians do not tune in to the CBC to hear talk about Canadians being anything other than Canadian. We don't pay for the other message, right? The CBC is our thing. We pay for that. That's ours.
Correct.
We don't pay the CBC to present messaging to us or stories to us or narratives to us about us being something other than who we are. That seems to go contrary to the mandate.
Well, let's take a look a little bit deeper at Trump's whole wanting to annex Canada. They want our minerals, they want our oil, they want our water, they want our aluminium. Yesterday they did two things. The Americans sided with Russia on a UN resolution, And I know there are Americans all across the country going, we did what? I know Reagan is spinning in his grave right now over that one. I guarantee you of that. And then our friend Phil Volpe put this out. The USA gets 60% of its aluminium from Canada. Tariff-free, close, secure source. Trump is threatening to tariff this as a national security threat, in quotes, but talking about getting it from Russia. Literally the bad guys. Are Americans okay with Russian aluminum fighter jets and F-150s? I mean, look, he's Krasnov, right? We've all read the stories. He went to Moscow in 1987. The Iron Curtain was still a thing. Germany was still divided. He went to Moscow in 1987 to broker a deal to open hotels. They were cultivating him long before that. His first wife, Ivana Trump, was from the then Red Curtained or Iron Curtained country of Czechoslovakia. Not Czechia, not Slovakia, Czechoslovakia. She was sent in to bring him to their side. This is how the story goes. I'm not making any of this up. This is the story. He has been compromised since the 70s. And when he set foot in Moscow in 1987 to broker a deal to open hotels, when he came back to the United States of America, he should have been arrested on the spot. Americans are not allowed to visit Cuba. How was this guy allowed to visit Moscow? Do you not see the bigger picture here? How was he allowed to go to the heart of communist Russia, the heart of the Soviet Union, Red Square, Moscow, in 1987? He should have been arrested on the spot the minute his plane landed at JFK. Instead, he's now the president who sides with Vladimir Putin because Putin owns him. He is a puppet. He is Krasnov. I'll find the article from The Guardian and post it in the chat.
So, moving on, there was the debate last night for the Liberal leadership. It took place in Montreal, down to 4 candidates because Ruby took her love to town. So, and had to, was determined to have done a few things with regard to her campaign that made it such that she was not eligible to be on that stage anymore. So we actually had a debate with 4 people. Frank Baylis, the businessman from Montreal, who we've not talked a lot on the show, but appears, for all intents and purposes, to be a serious candidate. He's not saying wild and crazy things like Dala and Chandra, because he's just not as well known. But he's actually presenting a set of coherent policies and sounds like a normal human being and can communicate and interact with other people like a normal human being. So, 4 legit candidates, although one of them is not as well known. Karina Gould being the others, one of the others, lost my voice there, Christopher Freeland and Mr. Mark Carney. It's, how would I put it? Okay, the first thing when we talk about a debate in French is the quality of the French. Often, in this case, it's good-ish. If you're Francophone, you have to do a lot of work. You have to pay attention. You have to follow. Frank Baylis is the one who's the most comfortable by far in French. Karina Gould, the second most comfortable, actually, in French. Christopher Freeland is third, and then Carney is the least. and it's obvious. But can still, when he's not making a point where he's looking down at notes, and so like making sure he's got stuff right. If he's just being asked a question, he can still get by in French without looking down, and that type of stuff. It's slower though. So that if he wins, unless he's practicing a lot, once he gets to if he gets to the French federal debate with Pierre, who can speak it fairly well, with Elizabeth May, who can speak it fairly well, with Blanchette, of course. No notes there, right? He is probably going to be the one to be the least effective in the debate in French if he wins, based on what I've seen there. Now he's going to have a couple of more months to work at it. Now, the thing with Carney's French is that it's not that it's bad, but when you enter the world of politics, there's a new language and there's a whole new jargon, right? And there are words with it that come happen. And when he was the governor of bank, there was also a jargon, right? When you're in banking, and I'm sure that some of it he knew in French because it's an international thing and might be able to say a bit. But the other job that he got, right, was as the central banker for the Bank of England. So I mean, it's not like he had to learn. He probably might have needed as much French there as he did here, because here, well, Quebec's part of the country, and the Bank of England probably does do business with the Bank of France. So, and England and France are kind of two big deals in the sort of overall area. But you could tell, how would I put it, is he knows enough French to know some of the jargon words, but it's almost like he hasn't used them enough yet for them to come naturally. So it's almost like you can tell it's newly acquired language. Mm-hmm. So for example, if he's talking about something, he's saying it's arbitrary in French, right? Like he knows arbitrary is arbitraire in French, but he doesn't remember arbitraire very well, so I'll say arbitraire or something, right? So you're sitting there and it's like, arbitraire? Oh, arbitraire. And you're listening to a couple of other words, and it's like, okay, so that's what I'm saying, where you have to do some work. You have to listen, right? Because the words are not exactly right, or the concept, or you sort of have to, a word is mispronounced and you go, and you got to sort of like fill in the blank with, and complete the thought a bit. So, but it is better than a lot of French I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where it's like you're like Ruby Dalla French.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I'm going to read a statement at the opening statement and at the French statement like this. And maybe like once or twice in the debate where I'm understanding something, yeah, oui, moi aussi. Yeah, me too. And that's about it. Right. So overall, that you had 4 candidates that were able to communicate in French and make themselves understood with varying degrees of clarity and skill, but still overall, as a francophone, was good, right? But that's good for that. And then there's, what a native francophone speaker would consider as good. And in that sense, pretty much only Frank Baylis really hit it. Karina Gould had, as we said in French, une aisance, an ease with the language. But of course, there's, French immersion, Burlington, and then as a Franco-Ontarian, how we take certain words in English and, add an A or at the end of it and hope that it works in French. Pardon me for a second. Hold on, I have to cough.
Okay, go ahead and do that. Clear your throat. Let me clear my throat.
So, yeah. Again, I have a bias for Karina when she speaks French as a Franco-Ontarian who's frequently in his life had to do that because the word's just not coming to me. So I, j'ai plugué ça. I plugged it in. Just plug and add A to it, and there you got a verb. So the good thing was, as the evening went on, those who were having more difficulty in the beginning were getting some comfort, and things were coming easier. So that will be another thing, because here in this case it's all liberals. So it's adversarial, but not as much as in a bigger debate. If Carney needs the first 25 or 30 minutes in the regular French debate to warm up French enough, again, he might be more of someone who was also there on that stage, which, to be totally honest, in normal times would be a bad thing, but in the current times, where we're talking about Trump and whether or not there's going to, in the Quebec and in the French debate, there's definitely going to be like whether or not oil is going to cross Quebec territory will be a question, right? And all those types of things. Maybe sometimes having just letting everybody else speak first, and especially if you're like last in the order, and just saying, one line because, oh, well, look, you guys took up all the time and there's only 30 seconds left for me to say so, might not actually be a bad thing. If Carney says something smart in those 30 seconds that flows, the fact that he didn't say much might actually be not a bad thing. That happened once in this debate, actually. There was a time where he went last and everybody talked so much that he only had something. So he only had like one line to say, and it was like, actually on that topic, the least said probably the better. So yay. Kind of worked out for him. So saying that you could have those types of moments. Of the questions, I do want to show you one clip, which is kind of awkward because I know that most of my audience is Anglophone. Mm-hmm. So this might be a little tricky to do, and it's actually really long. You know what? No, that might be too much because I'm looking at it. It's close to 8 minutes. It's long. But here's what I'll do. The reason why I wanted to show it to you is because, you know what? I will do it. No, because I'm going back and forth this because I'm going to have to do a lot of translating. It's going to be stop and start, and it's going to be heavy.
Okay.
All right. So that's why I was hopefully I was hoping it was just a 3-minute clip so that I could do it. They're talking about economic stuff, right? And basically your reaction and response to stuff having to do with tariffs, and how it is that we're supposed to change our economy for what's to come. And the reason why I thought it was important is because, how would I put it? Even though the French, again, is not absolutely fantastic, it's not great, the concepts being discussed are pretty good. Mm-hmm. And they are able to do it with the friends that they do have, which is kind of amazing, actually, when you think about it, because that's a whole other level, right? Because we're talking about these complex terms. And this question will probably come up in English anyway. So you might, when we're going to do the English one, you might see some similar things. But I do want to present it because of this was the part of the debate where you had 4 people who, even though they were in violent agreement on the overall core principles, actually had 4 very interesting different stances that you could make a case for all of them. And all of them were reasonable because they'll all have their drawbacks and their advantages, of course. And then, you want to, you might say, oh, this one's, I don't like these drawbacks and I prefer these advantages. But in French, as we say, c'était des propositions qui se tiennent. They held together. They were serious points being made, even though they weren't necessarily all going in the same direction, but they were all credible and real and serious, and things you could say, well, yeah, I could see making a case for that. Well, oh yeah, well, I could see making a case for that too, right? No flights of fancy, no weird stuff. So the quality here is also to be noted. Mr. Grizzly, if you have the thing.
Do you have a starting point, sir?
Yep, 4257. Now, in this debate over the course, one of the points I told you about Mr. Carney, the maître chez nous, he used it in the first 20 minutes. He had used it twice. In the first 50 minutes, he had already used it 3 times. Right? So really driving that home. But this will be good here.
Monsieur Carney, 60 milliards, c'est combien d'années que ça prend pour un retour à l'équilibre budgétaire? 3 ans, 5 ans, 10 ans?
J'ai une plan afin d'équilibrer le budget opérationnel dans 3 ans. Mais en ce qui concerne la situation budgétaire ici, nous avons eu un accroissement des dépenses à l'échelle fédérale au moyenne de 9% par année. 9%, année par année. C'est 2 fois plus rapide que le taux de croissance de notre économie. Alors, il faut mettre le cap sur le service public. Il faut changer la manière de gérer nos dépenses afin d'atteindre les résultats.
Mais je vais vous interrompre, M. Carney, comment arriver à ce déficit zéro? Vous promettez des baisses d'impôts, une augmentation.
He didn't want to pause.
Right. Okay. So the question was about the 60 billion, about the deficits and operational expenditures, right? It says you're going to. How long will it take to get back to budget on that, to balance that? 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, right? So Mark Kearney says it's in the 3 years that he will do that. You have to understand that. On average, spending has gone up about 9% year over year for several years, and that's twice as rapid as the growth of the economy. So they need to put some type of cap on that, right? But in terms of the operational budget, he says and that's what he's specifically saying, that for him, it will be 3 years. Now, I believe that, if I remember the debate correctly, that the journalist is going to press him a little bit more on the how, however, here.
Okay, just give me a second here. I'm just trying to fix some stuff that's bogging my system down. I have to close a bunch of stuff in the background, so bear with me.
No worries. So, again, you see that, again, Carney's French is a little slower, but again, stats, numbers, all those things, like he's able to get the content in, right? But you see it's a little labored.
Okay.
Du budget militaire, de l'ordre de 2% pour du PIB d'ici 2027, c'est le temps qui demande ça. Où trouver l'argent pour faire en sorte que le déficit baisse en augmentant le militaire et en baissant les impôts? On trouve l'argent où à ce moment-là?
Premièrement, c'est une des raisons pour lesquelles l'augmentation des dépenses militaires est d'ici à la fin de la décennie, mais surtout, et ça c'est un point important, ce qui est important avec les dépenses militaires, c'est de renforcer la sécurité des Canadiens et Canadiennes. Ça c'est le point de des dépenses-là. Ce n'est pas un numéro arbitraire. Okay? C'est plus important de cibler sur les résultats.
Mais vous dites 3 ans, on arrive, puis on a...
On allait.
3 ans.
Je peux compter.
Monsieur Bills.
Alors, je vais apporter une discipline budgétaire à Ottawa. Et...
So,
we do have real-time, I don't know if you can see, I have real-time...
delay.
Yeah, no, real-time translation on the screen.
Oh.
Subtitles, yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Okay.
Real-time subtitles.
Then great. Okay, perfect. Then, but
there's no need for you to do that.
Well, for the listeners on the audio, though.
Oh, yes. Okay, fair enough. Yes. If you want to go ahead. Yeah.
So the journalist had asked him, if we're going to be augmenting military spending, but also cutting taxes and whatnot, like where are you funding the money to do all of this? There wasn't really anything in that first part of the answer. He was trying to get a sentence started. Nothing really happened. But then continued to make the point, says, but you have to understand that for money that we're going to be spending on defense, like this, so he's trying to do the operational versus capital cost argument here, that this is money that we are spending to reinforce the security of the nation. This is not an arbitrary number. For the Francophones, you would have heard here, the way he said arbitraire in French was not actually the word arbitraire, but he mispronounced it, but he knows the word, he knows what he wants to say, but clearly it's a newly acquired word, mixed up a couple of syllables, right? So that's why I'm saying where his French is at. You can tell he's working at it, but he's not there. But trying to make the point here that these other costs, this other money that I intend to spend that will bring us into a deficit other than the operational costs, they have specific purposes. There are things that we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore we can't consider it the same type of spending. Right. So, but again, not strong, right? Here's where you think, like in the French debate, they're going to eat his lunch.
Yeah.
Here. Okay, so now we have Frank Bayless.
Quand tu parles comme ça, les gens pensent, OK, soit il va couper les services ou il va augmenter les...
If I didn't know better, I would think he was Québécois.
He is, from Pierrefonds.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Well, that's why his French is so good then.
Yeah, so when everybody's been talking all the things, like this, there will be no Quebec representative for like this, Frank Bayless, because but nobody knows him. It's like, he's still from Quebec.
Yeah.
Would you rewind it a little bit to the start of his comment, actually?
Okay.
Okay.
Monsieur Bayless.
Alors, je vais apporter une discipline budgétaire à Ottawa. Et quand tu parles comme ça, les gens pensent, OK, soit il va couper les services ou il va augmenter les taxes. Mais non, il y a une troisième voie.
Exact.
Et cette voie, c'est d'augmenter notre productivité.
C'est ça.
Comme chef d'entreprise, je connais comment accroître la productivité. J'ai passé d'une entreprise avec 2 personnes, moi et ma mère, et on l'a grandi jusqu'à 1000 personnes, toujours en investissant pour accroître notre productivité. Alors, je comprends à la fois le secteur privé, mais aussi le secteur public. Je suis le seul ici qui connaît les 2 côtés de la médaille. Pourquoi? Parce que j'ai déjà été élu et aussi, je suis un homme d'affaires. Alors, je sais comment mettre en place la politique gouvernementale qui va aider à faire fonctionner notre économie d'une manière très avancée.
Madame Gould.
Okay.
Merci, Pierre.
So Bayless.
Comme ça qu'on va dealer avec.
Sorry, I screwed up there.
He said he's going to bring some budgetary discipline, and I know when people talk like that, they always think, he's going to cut services or cut taxes. He says there's a third way. And then you could hear Mark Carney going, you're right, that's true. He says it's increasing productivity. And Mark Carney goes, you're right. So they both agree on this, right? He says, I started a company with 2 people, just my mother and I, and turned it into a company that had 1,000 people. He says, by always investing in increasing the productivity of the company. I understand both the public and the private sectors because I have been an elected MP and a business person. So I know how to put forward policy that speaks to our needs. Again, that's a good answer.
Agreed.
So he's not some fringe candidate. All right, keep going. Now we move on to Karina Gould.
We'll get there in a second.
Je prends un petit peu de temps avec vous avant d'aller à la prochaine question, parce que je vous ai parlé de l'unité des provinces canadiennes.
I'm not sure if we're in the right spot because I.
Qu'en est-il de la population
canadienne? That's not the right spot.
Disent que de 15 à 20%.
Where, at what point was that starting at?
Hold on, I'd have to look that up again too. You're probably around the 45-minute mark or so.
Oh, okay.
If you see Karina Gould around 44 something or 45.
Yeah, I had accidentally. Sometimes the. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Yeah. There she is. What happens is sometimes you'll make contact inadvertently, and it just throws everything sideways.
Yep.
I wasn't paying attention to the timestamp, so my apologies.
Je sais comment mettre en place la politique très avancée.
Et honnête avec. Merci Pierre. Je crois qu'on devrait être réaliste et honnête avec les Canadiens et je suis pas confortable comme libéral de commencer cette question avec les coupeurs budgétaires. On doit parler du fait de 40 milliards à peu près de dollars qui étaient énoncés dans l'automne. C'est nos devoirs et nos responsabilités et nos ententes avec les peuples autochtones dans ce pays. C'est quelque chose qu'on doit payer, mais ce n'est pas de cette année, c'est pour les années à venir. Et je suis tout à fait d'accord qu'on devrait croître l'économie, qu'on veut avoir plus de productivité, mais de penser qu'on peut le faire dans 3 ans, je ne crois pas que c'est vraiment réaliste. Et dans un moment où notre économie face les menaces extrêmes des États-Unis, on doit avoir la décision d'investir dans nos personnes, dans nos peuples, dans nos entreprises pour les protéger contre les États-Unis.
J'ajoute un peu de temps à ce thème parce que c'est important aussi, parce que M. Carney, vous avez parlé de possibilité de réduire les transferts aux provinces.
So, Carrie Nicole says, we should be realistic and honest with Canadians. I'm not comfortable starting any conversation like this by talking with cuts. And then she's mentioning the fall political economic statement. She doesn't say, and in the fall political economic statement. So the transition to link these two concepts together, but she starts talking about the $40 billion deficit that was recorded this year and stating that some of this had to do for our obligation to First Nations, right? The fact that it was not a deficit from reckless and wild spending, it's a legal settlement because we did harm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's as simple as that, yeah.
But the connecting words to bring that concept together, she's just talking about the $40 billion in First Nations people, and that's an obligation, it's our duty.
Mm-hmm.
But the connecting words to link the concept to what she was in the flow, I have to complete that as a francophone. But to know that, I'd have to be aware that the fall economic statement came in, that is a $40 billion budget, and it was because it was a settlement. And if you don't know that, you can't complete the sentence. So it just looks like she jumped from one thing to another.
Right.
That didn't make sense. She says that it's our, so other than taking care of our duty and our responsibility to Indigenous groups, right? You have to take care of that. That's an expense that we just had to do. She also agrees with growing the economy with more productivity, but she believes that it is not realistic to promise that this could be done in 3 years at a moment that we are facing extreme threats from the United States. And this is a time to really be throwing money into investing in our people and our businesses in order to protect them. So the whole concept of necessarily having to balance the budget even operationally in these particular times within 3 years, considering whatever threats there are, and we don't know the full impacts of them and how they could, she's not ready to commit to that. She would like to have more room in case things are worse. So in other words, she's presenting this in such a way, because Mark Carney is being so firm, that if he's not able to do it in 3 years, you know for a fact the first thing that's going to be he promised he would do it, but he's just like Trudeau, he didn't do it, and then the Liberals are always the same. Her, by framing it this way, is like, these are my goals, this is what I'm aiming for. But I have no idea what's coming from south of us and how hard and how bad it's going to hit. So I was like, I can't promise that we're going to be doing it in 3 years. And I'm not going to promise that the first thing that I'm going to do in order to balance this budget is cut stuff that goes to people.
Mm-hmm. I like this statement from Mr. Jim. He says, now that Ruby Dalla is gone, I'm feeling really good about the leadership race. I'm not afraid of any of them winning. I concur. I concur with you on that one, sir. Whoever wins, I have no fear. Now, who is probably the best candidate to go head-to-head with Pierre Poilievre in a federal election? I think vibe and feeling of the nation, it would be either Bayless or Carney. And I say that because of the fact that Mark Carney is a fresh face in many respects, a well-respected individual. Frank Bayless is a fresh face, as bright and as intelligent and as articulate as Chrystia Freeland is. She's too tied to the hip of Justin Trudeau, and I think that would drag the party down. And Karina Gould, I don't know enough. I don't know if enough people are familiar with her yet. Again, I think she's the future of the Liberal Party of Canada. I don't know who will be the next leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. I shudder to think they could be worse than the current leader.
Oh, they can. Oh, well, they can. There's a whole lot lower we can go.
I know. And look, I disliked Aaron O'Toole. I did. For some of the stuff he pulled, what he did to veterans, I have no respect for that. But he did say, we cannot govern by Twitter. We cannot govern by sound bites, and we need to bring the party closer to the center. The problem is there's so many extreme right-wingers in that party right now that I don't like extreme left and I don't like extreme right because extremes are not good in government because people get hurt.
Bingo.
It's not good for anybody to be extreme when it comes to your political party. It's never good.
All right.
What we'll have in the next few years, I have no idea.
I know.
Did you have any more
Yeah.
clips? Or
continue on this one in this section here because I think there's someone we haven't heard from Freeland yet.
Okay, because I got to wrap up shortly.
Yeah.
Et aux individus.
Non, pas de réduction des transferts aux provinces, pas de réduction de n'importe quelle initiative.
Pas de réduction?
Non, pas de...
Pas d'augmentation non plus, c'est statu quo, c'est quoi?
Le statu quo. Statu quo. On a environ 150 millions de programmes au sein du budget gouvernemental. Il faut augmenter la productivité de cela. Nous sommes à Montréal maintenant. Nous sommes à Montréal, une des centres d'intelligence artificielle. Il faut mettre en œuvre pour le gouvernement. Maintenant, à partir de maintenant, ça commence, il faut continuer. Et en même temps,
parce que
en même temps, il faut avoir...
Oui.
Okay.
Parce que je pense que...
Okay.
Parce que...
À la fois 15
So a bit of a cacophonous mess here. And because this is something that will happen to Carney in the French debate, if he's laboring like this, other people are going to try and cut his time because he didn't really say much there again. The host was asking about like transfers to provinces and stuff like that. Will there be cuts and that kind of stuff? And it's like no cuts, no increases, pretty much status quo. But of all the money that we do have invested in certain things, like I think he said 150 million, but I think he might have meant to say billion, because in French, million is million, but billion is milliard, right? So million, billion in English are different because of the first letter, you can tell, but million, milliard. So if French is not your first language, you could be meaning to say billion and end up saying million because it's the end of the word that's different, not the first letter as in English. But he says of that money that we are spending, it's like we need to boost the productivity that we are getting for those dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when, but it took him a long time to kind of get that out. So you could see Christia Freeland and then who hasn't yet had a chance to speak on this topic yet. Right, trying to get in, and then Karina Gould having something else to say, and Mark Carney, because the words are not coming well enough, kind of having to defer because he got run over here. So he's got to be able to defend his space better in French when that comes. So let's keep going.
Just a moment.
15 ou 20 secondes, je prends un peu plus de temps là, pour qu'on aille plus loin.
Je veux juste dire, la responsabilité fiscale est importante, mais c'est important d'être clair avec les Canadiens que la position d'aujourd'hui est bonne. Ce qu'on doit faire, c'est vraiment contrôler le service public et investir dans la productivité, mais pas couper les choses qui vont directement aux Canadiens et Canadiennes.
Madame, on reviendra au transfert tantôt. J'ai d'autres questions sur les transferts.
Moi, j'étais la ministre des Services Canada et quand vous avez l'expérience à gouverner comme ça, vous savez déjà qu'on utilise déjà l'intelligence artificielle pour faire nos services plus efficaces. On peut toujours faire plus, mais dans un moment où on a besoin de peut-être appuyer les Canadiens d'une manière importante contre les menaces économiques, je ne suis pas tout d'accord de dire qu'on ne va pas dépenser de plus, parce que si on a pris cette décision pendant la pandémie, les Canadiens auraient souffert beaucoup plus et beaucoup d'entreprises se seront fermées.
Là, je vous demande un oui ou un non à la prochaine question. Est-ce que c'était une bonne idée?
This is really cool here. So Christopher Freeland says fiscal responsibility is very important, but it's important to be clear that today's economic position is good.
Mm-hmm.
Our macroeconomic position is good. So yes, we have to control some public spending and we do have to invest in productivity. And then Karina Gould comes in and says, because somebody was also talking about making government more productive and efficient using stuff like AI. Says, well, if you've worked in the government like I have with Service Canada, because she was the minister in charge of Service Canada, you would know that we already do use AI very much in the government. Now we could always use it more ways to do better things, but we do that. But what we need to do is support our Canadians at a time where maybe a lot will be asked of them. And I cannot agree at this moment to say that we will not spend more in order to do that, because had we done that during COVID, people would have been far worse off. So again, these are the 4 positions. I guess we could stop now. There was one little addendum where they were adding a couple of other things there. It was really quickly, but that was the main crux of that part of the discussion there. So you saw 4 people, right, emphasizing 4 very different points. Right? Invest. Yes, cut taxes or cut programs like this, or we can invest in boosting our productivity. Yes, we do that, but let's make sure, like this, that we're going to need supports for people if these tariffs get a lot. So, because how much we're willing to commit to, balancing budgets, and to how much might not be wise to go all in and make that a firm promise yet, because things could change. Mark Carney, no, we're going to do operational and whatever operational capital budgets. The operational budgets I will be able to do in 3 years, come what may. That won't matter. So all solid positions that you can make a case for, right? You won't know which one will be right until you go through the gauntlet. I guess, but before you're going into the gauntlet, well, we could do this, or we could do this. Well, all of these are solutions where people turn around and says, well, yeah, that could work. Well, yeah, that could work too. Well, that may be. So if you got those 4 together in a room, and they put all those ideas together, you would probably come with a really good policy. And with Karina Gold there, you'd probably have be presenting it with a little bit of humility, enough humility that in case you weren't able to achieve everything in 3 years because life threw you a curveball, because you don't have somebody turn around and says, but you committed, you promised. But you promised. Yeah, but we had a pandemic. I don't care. You promised to balance the budget in 3 years. But there was a you broke your promise. I don't care if things change. You made a promise. Promise. That's it. It's black and white. Eliminate all nuance. Karina Gold is the only one with the foresight. Now, maybe we want to present this in such a way that we don't set ourselves up for that, given that we just set ourselves up for that last time.
Yeah.
Maybe. So, all good points. Like you said, like Mr. Jim said, I'd be comfortable with either one of the 4. This is why you want to get involved at that level, to make sure that you have this level of candidates to choose from there, and then you pick of those the best. If we did that everywhere at nomination rights and whatnot, everybody complaining, I got nobody to vote for, that would all be gone. And if we did that for all parties, we'd have the best freaking slate of candidates possible. We'd have an embarrassment of riches.
Oh, yes.
But you got to get involved at the ground level. That's why I encourage you to do that. Go to your nomination races and participate there. And I guess make sure that the person that actually makes it to the ballot is a quality candidate. That's where you do your quality control. All right. Do we have a show?
We do indeed, sir.
All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us, because we love making this for you. Remember, word of mouth is priceless and sharing is caring. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We love it when you do. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, yes. If you're listening to us in podcast version and you do not want to miss an episode, well, you don't have to, thanks to the Ray Girl. If you're watching right now, you can scan that QR code and it will bring you there. But if you're listening, podpage.com/thetruenortheagerbeaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you click on subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, zip right to you. It's like magic. Oh, darn. I should have asked you to cue the harp. Damn. It arrives like magic, and therefore you get to enjoy us in your ears. Now, if you would like I don't know, I always feel I need to after I hear that. If you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, like, for example, by subscribing to our YouTube channel, well, hey, that would make us happy too. Surf on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where Kits, Cassie, and Elaine are waiting for you. They even have muffins. Maybe even cookies if you're lucky. Come to the dark side. We have cookies. So surf on down and click our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. It helps us with the algorithm. And I've noticed some kids pointed out on the chat yesterday, and I took a look. A lot of you are subscribing all of a sudden, because we were at 12,500, then 12,600 for a while, and then all of a sudden we're at 12,900, and I don't think we did an advertising push. So that's all organic. So thank you to the 300 or 400 so who have joined us in the last little bit. Pull up a log. Make yourself comfortable. Stay a while. Welcome to the damn fam. Nice to have you. So please, it helps us a lot. If you would like to help us in other ways, for example, financially, because we do incur some costs. My God, I just went to New York for a second. We do incur some costs. I was going to say costs.
Yeah, and I just had to pay a bill a moment ago so that we don't lose access to a service that we use. So I'm bleeding cash.
You have to send me those, eh?
It's a monthly thing for software that we use.
But send me those.
Send me money.
But I'm telling you, Mr. Grizzly, I have some of the money to reimburse you for those. So send me those bills. I can get that
all
back
online.
To you.
It's just an online monthly thing. There's not a paper receipt or anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's okay. We have that. I can get that to you. But if you would like to help us, we would really, really appreciate that. So you can find our tip jar, also known as the Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, at coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver. Lowercase letters, all in one word, and it means the world to us when you offer us your support, as did Kit Carlos the other day, once again leaving us a very enthusiastic expression of gratitude for the work that we do, who this time had to say, I tried to think of something clever to write, but I got nothing, so I'll just leave this here and try and come back later. I love it. That's great. And Kit T. Wigmore, who yesterday, who sent us something and said to us a little bit, but I hope it goes a long way in encouraging you fellas to keep at it. I pop in infrequently these days, but enjoy looking at the Damn Fam chats as well as following your insightful commentaries. Admire you both for doing what you do. P.S. Joined a political party with a smiley face. Yes. Thank you, Kit T. Thank you. And thank you for getting involved and doing democracy. That's the best tip of all. But the financial one helps. I won't lie. So thanks a million. And also a little shout out to a friend of ours, Mr. Kit Ian, who the other day, Mr. Grizzly, you said that there was an amount that was needed, $250 for an advertising type thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Kit Ian has decided that he would help us.
Oh, fantastic.
They would help us. So, Mr. Grizzly, this should cover the first half of the money needed for the promo. When I get paid, I'll cover the second half at the end of this month.
Oh, fantastic.
So,
thank you, sir.
Thank you very, very, very much for helping us with that particular initiative, Kit Ian. And if there's any other way that could be helpful to you, that we can give you additional recognition, if you happen to have a side business or something, we'd be happy to give you a little bit additional visibility for that help, because that's a big project, and it will help us a lot. It will help us a lot. So thank you. And that's very generous. Again, we have the best. It's really nice when people see the value in what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So
agreed.
Thank you. Good sir. We really appreciate that. So yeah, there you go. if you would like to contribute as well, if you don't want to go through our coffee page, because that does have a PayPal connection, which is USC bro, and you want to buy 100% Canadian, our email address is truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, and that's where you can send a direct transfer, deal with Canadian Bank, 100% Canadian, once again. Now, if you're not able to contribute financially, though, please don't worry, because that same email address allows you to chat with us, and we'd love to hear what you have to say. So please communicate with us there, right? truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. Let us know what you think of the show. Also, you can reach us at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, at True Eager, our Twitter account, The Bad Place, and also Facebook page. And if you're listening here on YouTube, right down below, there's a comment section. We do try to read everything, of course, not able to necessarily get back to everyone, but your comments do make the show better. And we appreciate everything that you do to promote the show, to give us feedback, all of that. It means the world to us. Thank you. Because democracy is something that you do. Again, Quebec Liberal leadership race, Ontario election on Thursday. Please plan your vote. I am available to do a return show on Thursday, so I don't know if you're interested, but might do
maybe we'll see. I've got a lot on the go this week, trying to get caught up on things. If I have the energy to do it, is the problem right now. So I'm way behind on everything.
Same here. Part of me wants to do it because, I mean, we're a political show and it's Ontario. It's the biggest province like this. Part of me has a little bit of the foregone conclusion sort of doom. It's like, why bother?
We'll just deal with it in the morning on Friday's show. I mean, really, you know?
Motivation is a little So I'm not promising a Thursday return show for the Ontario one, but you know me, I usually end up doing the right thing, so there probably will be one. But but right now I have a little bit of rebelling going on. It's like, no, I'm not giving you a special. You disrespected us. Why should I do a special to watch you win? But then, like this, there's part of me that just the hopeful, optimistic me says, maybe we'll get a surprise. Maybe. And I want to be there for it. But it doesn't look like we're going to get a surprise. But still, go vote. Absolutely, go vote. Do not let the suppression tactics work. Go vote. Because even a drop in seats on his part sends a message. Right? And it would be nice to have two opposition parties that actually have official status. So if we could get 12 seats for the Liberals and 12 seats from the NDP, that would be good too. Yeah. Right. Okay. Mr. Grizzly, please, some words of wisdom.
Ontarians, remember, once again, I'm going to remind you, you have 2 more days. Get out and vote on Thursday. This is Tuesday. This is Tuesday, isn't it? Yeah, it's Tuesday.
This is Tuesday.
Make sure you get out and vote on Thursday. Vote for your community. Vote for the individual in your community, the representative, the MPP in your riding that will do the best for Canadians, for your fellow Ontarians, for your community, for your friends, for your family, for the seniors in long-term care, for autistic children, for children in schools. Vote for those folks. And let's not forget the nurses and the doctors who have been underpaid and overworked.
Teachers.
And folks that are sitting in ER hallways for hours on end. Vote for those folks, because guess what? You could be one of those folks any day now.
Vote for the trans kids and the people on ODSP.
Yes.
Vote for the people living in encampments. Vote for the addicts.
And people on ODSP don't sit around watching the Flintstones.
Thank you for that, Mr. Grizzly. Also, don't forget to democracy is something that you do, that there's a by-election in Manitoba coming up, and that the English language debate for the Liberal leadership is tonight. So please tune into that. Yeah. All right. That's everything that I got. So, Mr. Grizzly, please. Okay, first of all, kids, it can be tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourselves. Somebody has to. Might as well be you. Charity starts at home. Mr. Grizzly, cue the cock. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
I just have to share this.
Okay.
This is John Pavlovitz. This is from November of 2021. In your own words, how would you describe libertarians? John Spalding responds, house cats. They're convinced of their fierce independence while utterly dependent on a system they don't appreciate or understand. I've been saying the first time I read that, I'm like, yep.
That's good. That's very good. All right. Have a let's try that again. Have a beaverific day, everyone. Damn, keep on missing the dismount.
Oh, good. See ya.